Hello everyone, in today's video I've got another treat for you. I managed to track down a gas turbine specialist all the way from the faraway land of Italy to help answer some questions about gas turbine engines as well as turboprops. Would you care to introduce yourself?
Hi everybody, my name is Antonio. I am in the military. I'm turbine specialist. I've been an instructor for 11 years, and I will help here my good friend to carry on this flight, and I hope you will enjoy it.
All right, awesome. So, like we said, we're going to be taking a look at this. We did take out a good turboprop. We had a few different choices we could operate today. We chose the TBM because it's got that nice modern engine control system and everything on it, which is going to make it a little easier. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and get this thing started, and I'll be asking about 1,000 questions along the way because I am no expert on this. I've never operated a turboprop aircraft in the real world. I can fake it, but I guarantee I'll probably make terrible mistakes. But Antonio will be there to help us out today. So, anyway, let's go ahead and get this thing started. So, for those of you guys familiar with the TBM, you've probably seen this about 100 times. I'm going to do a nice express kind of setup with this one. I'm not going to do anything too crazy here. Again, I like the way that this aircraft is all nice and logically laid out, kind of going across the top here. Nothing too crazy as far as any of the different controls. We usually put that one on. That usually gets turned on later, but again, I'm not stressing out about it right now. We're just a matter of getting this thing started, at least until we get to the point where we have to look at the engine itself. Fuel selector set good, feels okay. Okay, so the first question I got to ask Antonio is on a gas turbine, and this is very different than when we're using a regular engine, like an internal combustion. Why is it that we normally would start with the fuel off?
Because there is a system that can load automatically the fuel into the combustion chamber. There is a small, tiny mechanical pump that goes on as soon as the starter goes on. Then it's enough to have battery, it's enough to crank it on, and the gas arrives automatically in the combustion chamber, and the starting up procedure turn everything on.
Okay. Now, my understanding is in classic turboprops, when you were starting them, if you turn the fuel on too quickly, you could end up with basically a hot start or an engine fire.
Well, we'll talk deeper about this issue later on, I suppose. But anyway, the modern turbines are fail-safe. Then you cannot make mistakes because the system is so automatized, so automatic and perfect that every time there is the right amount of gas into the combustion chamber.
Okay. Because I know one of the things you always had to watch out for, and I've seen this on helicopters too, is basically hands on the fuel cutoff if your ITT got up too high.
Yes, that's true. The old school helicopters, they still have the manual throttle, so some not well-thinking pilot can put his hands there, but they are all trained by me to treat the engine properly.
Gotcha. Okay, so something we don't have to worry about because this is super modern here. All right, so one thing I'm doing is I'm kind of running through all my different pieces here. I got everything set up and started up, ready to rock here. One thing I do notice is I got this little switch that says bleed. I assume that a bleed on a turboprop is exactly the same as it is like on a jet engine?
Yes, basically they have the same purpose, that is to don't cause stall on the compressor.
Gotcha. All right, we're going ahead good. I'm not going to do anything for as far as takeoff or anything along those lines. Now, one thing I noticed on a turboprop is I have multiple idle selections. That's just not something I've ever seen before on a regular piston engine plane.
Mm-hmm. It all depends on the type of engine we are talking about. Usually there are 2 or 3 sets on a normal turbine, which can give the right power to in this case to the propeller. Depends on the type of flight you want to have.
Gotcha. Now I understand too that like you kind of like that beta range where if you need to like kind of like taxi at low speeds, you could do it without really increasing the throttle as well.
That's exactly right. In the case of the TBM, we have variable pitch on the propeller blades. Then there is this help from the propeller itself. Then the engine, the workload of the engine is a bit lower because the pitch, the variable pitch on the propeller can help in that.
Gotcha. Now that's super cool. Now, when you're starting a gas turbine engine or a turboprop engine, does the starter have to be a lot stronger than it does on a regular engine?
As regular engine,
internal combustion, like reciprocating, I should be more specific.
Yes. The concept is completely different because in a piston engine you have to move a lot of mass, you have to move a lot of metal. To move all this metal, you need a big starter. Okay, in the turbine, you need very little energy because what you are turning, what you are putting in motion, basically is only, let's say, 15 pounds of metal, not more than that, which is the compressor and the gas generator shaft and the gas generator turbine. All the rest comes later.
Gotcha. And my understanding is gas turbines have to spin very fast compared to reciprocating engines?
That's exactly true. Imagine that in a normal helicopter, the RPM on the gas generator turbine can reach 26, 27, 55,000 RPM.
Wow. It's like a Formula One engine kind of a thing.
Yes, with the difference, and the Formula One engines, they have to be set up with a throttle, which in that case is on the foot. In the case of the turbine, everything is automated. There is a fuel control unit which receives several signals from the engine. Maybe we'll see that later.
Mm-hmm. We will.
And it's so compact and so automated that it has to work in that way, and it has to work.
Gotcha.
Let's say in the last years, engineers made a really good job in projecting new type of turbines. The system is highly automated. I will never stress that enough. That this type of engine is really fail-safe.
Gotcha. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring us over into the runway. I'll get us airborne. I'll clean up the aircraft, and then I'll give you controls. Then what we've actually done, and Antonio's done a great job of this, is put together a couple images and kind of slides to kind of go around with what we're explaining here. So I'm going to go ahead and bring us on. Like I said, I'll get us airborne, and then I'll give you the controls, but I'll let you know. So interesting fact, a couple days ago, Microsoft Flight Simulator released this nice little patch that made flaps a little too effective. So I'm actually going to do a no flap takeoff, which is like scandalous, I know. Otherwise, our lifting off speed would be about 45 knots, which is a little low for the TBM.
Right, yes, for the TBM, yes.
Yeah, I'm sure they're going to fix that in a few days. What were you going to say?
Talking about this new update that was released few days ago. Today I flew with a Cessna 172 and everything worked pretty fine.
Okay. Make sure the last couple pieces are ready to go here. All right, now ready to go?
Yep, I'm ready.
All right.
Sit along.
Here we go. That thing sounds so angry. So you're telling me that little tiny thing is spinning about 28,000 RPM or something like that? I'm going to ask the impossible question later about my propeller's not spinning that fast. Otherwise, it would probably get a little supersonic there.
Yes.
Exactly. All right, we'll go ahead and get ourselves airborne here. And the wind isn't too bad today.
It's also pretty warm, 14 degrees.
Not bad at all. I'll bring those gear up. Normally we'd be lifting up flaps and all that stuff, but we don't have to worry about that because, as I was mentioning earlier, that would be a little complicated for us. All right, I'm going to go take us on our initial heading. Now, the crazy thing about a TBM is I feel like this thing's almost overpowered. I'm up at 15 degrees here, and I'm still doing more than my VY. That's insane how much power you can get out of something this small.
Yeah.
And bring us over on our heading. Get the nice picturesque side of the central Italy, I believe we are in, roughly. Oh, by the way, what was the name of the airport we took off from? I cannot pronounce that to save my life right now.
It's Perugia Sant'Egidio. And we are going to Roma Fiumicino.
Yeah, it would take me about a week to get. I know a little bit of Spanish, but my Italian is not that great.
You have me, don't worry.
All right, okay. So he'll be able to translate the road signs for us if we get really, really lost. All right, we'll bring on the yaw damper. Man, this thing just wants to go up. There we go. Nice and smooth, nice and smooth. All right, gonna bring us back to left on course here. As I get the last couple bits all nice and organized, we'll start doing the next piece here. I'll definitely have to ask, we'll ask that in a minute, basically, how well does Flight Simulator kind of capture this, but that's something for definitely later. I'm sure a lot of folks are very curious about that as well. All right, I think we're more than high enough to shut off the inertial separator, though. I don't think we need that anymore. I'm pretty sure it's a pretty clear day. Unless Mount Vesuvius is erupting or something like that, I'm not too concerned.
Well, at the moment, there is another volcano which is erupting. That is the Etna. Is maybe less, 500 miles south in Sicily.
Gotcha. Okay, I was not aware of that. So that is actually a concern then. Unfortunately for us in the simulator, we won't bump into it, I don't think, though.
No.
All right, I think I've got it pretty trimmed out for you. I'm going to give you your controls. You have control?
Okay.
All right, I'm going to go switch over to the other seat in the aircraft now. Whoa. All right. I could actually go in the back seat if I want and kind of pull out my little notebook. That'd be kind of fun. Okay, so far we've gone ahead and taken up a talk. We talked a little bit about, just how fast these things go and everything else like that. But we're going to get into some of these specifics now. So what I'm going to do for everybody is I'm going to pull up a quick little guide here that's going to kind of help us out here. Quick little couple slides. Let's see here. There it goes. All right, so our first slide, it's kind of nice. Like I said, Antonio put this together for us, which I think is absolutely great. All right, so the second slide talks a little bit about the TBM 930 and the PT6. Zara, what can you tell us about the PT6?
Well, the PT6 is it exists in several versions. One of these versions I can tell you, is mounted on a helicopters. And anyway, is a mixed compressor. It has a double compressor at some stage of axial compressor and one stage of centrifugal compressor. They are mid-range power, then not exactly very powerful, but powerful enough to pull up, let's say, 15,000, 18,000 pounds helicopter.
That's a lot.
Yes. For a helicopter, is kind of normal. And this is mid-range, let's say, helicopters.
Gotcha. Now, your slide here mentions the fact that it has a thermodynamic rating of 1,825 horsepower, but it's flat rated at 850 horsepower. What's the difference between those two?
The difference is that the power that the engine generates versus the power available at the main drive shaft. The main drive shaft is the one that goes into the gearbox and that at the end spins our propeller. While the top power, the highest power, is the one that the engine generates for itself. Because when an engine is running in this moment for the TBM, for instance, the compressor needs to spin, needs to pump a lot of air into the engine. Most of this air is used for cooling down the engine itself. Then the compressor needs energy to spin. This energy is given by the gas generator turbine. The remaining part of this energy goes to the power turbine, which at the end is the turbine connected to the power turbine shaft that gives rotation to the propeller.
Okay. That's a lot. Speaking of which, on the third slide, he's actually given us a diagram of the engine as mounted as it is in the TBM 930 here. The first thing I want to point out about this picture, which is actually kind of wild, is the propeller is actually mounted over here, but it almost appears that the gas turbine itself is almost mounted the other direction. Because I'm taking a look on the right-hand side, and you've got your air inlet, you got all your compressors and everything like that. So what I was hoping to do is if you could kind of give us a little bit of description of some of the components here. So I'm looking way on the far right side here, and it says engine fuel control unit. You said that's kind of like the most important component there?
Yes, the engine, the fuel control unit is the brain, the mechanical brain of the engine. Basically, what it does, it receives as input signals the gas generator RPM, the turbine RPM, the outside temperature, and the pressure of the compressor. And as fifth signal is the position of the throttle.
Gotcha.
This is a bit particular because this system is a bit particular compared to a piston engine, because in the piston engine we all know, because we drive cars, we all know that with the foot we go directly to dose the gas in the engine. While in the turbines this cannot happen because of the speed that you are tricking me with the airplane.
Oh, I'm not controlling the plane. Oh, wait, I guess I am.
You're not? Yes, you are.
That's news. All right, let me take control back.
Okay.
Maybe
that's yours.
All right, I got the controls.
There
was also a Your Controls update that came out earlier, so we might be having a little bit of shenanigans with that also. All right, let me get us back up here. That was weird. Maybe the trim started to take over? I'm not sure what that was. All right, it's all right. I'll get us kind of lined back up again. All right, anyway, you're saying. So the fuel control unit, very critical component on the engine itself. Now, I would imagine that that's probably some kind of computer. You know, it's not just like a little valve like it was on, like you said, the throttle.
No. It's actually it's a mechanical computer. If we want to use the word computer.
Gotcha.
In the most modern engine, is a mix of the two technologies. Then old mechanic way, levers, small valves, and governors, and mixed with the electric signal of an actual computer that is an electronic component which gives other signals as input signals in order to dose the right amount of gas.
Gotcha. All right, so then we have our air inlet, which I understand, at least in the TBM, we have a centrifugal separator kind of a thing in case we've got some particulates or something we don't want to suck in there. Then we have, let's see, the compressor turbine here. You were mentioning earlier that there's actually multiple stages to the compressor turbine?
Yes. This we have two stages of turbine for the compressor and a single stage for the reduction gearbox.
Gotcha.
Those two turbines belong to two different shafts. Then the so-called gas generator shaft and the so-called power turbine shaft, which are not mechanically connected.
Gotcha. So you're telling me the gas turbine spins independent of the propeller and the gearbox?
Yes, usually it spins. It has a range, a range of RPM, so the fuel control unit can set up the right power, in our case, to the propeller.
Now, why would they choose to engineer it that way? Why don't you just connect the gas turbine mechanically to that gearbox?
Well, because especially at the start or the variation of power, let's talk about start. Starting the engine means to give to the engine some amount of energy. This energy is given by the starter. Imagine the starter that has to put in rotation the compressor, the gas generator shaft, the gas generator turbine, the power turbine, the reduction gearbox, and the propeller. It needs a lot of energy.
Definitely.
Another thing is that the small, tiny starter has to put in rotation only 15 pounds of metal, which is the compressor and the gas generator turbine.
Gotcha. All right, I'm going to give you the controls back if that's all right with you.
Yes, okay.
All right, I've got no autopilot on or anything like that.
Okay.
All right, your controls.
Thank you.
All right. Whoa. Snap my neck. Okay, so we have the compressor blades, which are going to be squeezing the air. We got our little, looks like combustion chamber, which probably fairly similar to a jet engine, I assume.
Yes, they are basically all the same.
Gotcha. So then we have, let's see here, in the back, you've got, you said the two-stage turbine. One of them's for running the compressor. The third turbine is for running the actual propeller.
Yes.
Awesome.
And well, through the gearbox.
Gotcha. And that's probably a pretty serious gearbox because that's a serious RPM change.
Yes. Usually it's the heaviest part of the engine.
Gotcha. Oh, wow. Okay, interesting. And then I see in the back here, there's an accessory gearbox. I assume that's for running like the electric generation.
Yes, as well as the fuel pump and the oil, the lubricating pump, the lube pump.
Gotcha. And I assume somewhere on here there's a place for the bleed valve.
The bleed usually is mounted on the outer shell of the combustion chamber.
Gotcha. So it's right. Yeah, okay. So it'd be right up there because I know with some jet engines you have a lot more compressor stages, and they just steal it from one of those stages.
It's a different concept.
Gotcha.
There you need speed. Talking about the exhaust.
Gotcha.
You need speed in order to make the nozzle, which is the final user, work.
Gotcha.
In our case, the user is the propeller. Then you don't need speed, but you need pressure and temperature.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay, so I'm going to go flip over to your next slide here. I'm actually going to minimize the little presentation here for a second because it's just going to be easier to see it over in the simulator. So I'm taking a look here. There's I can see 4 major engine gauges for our little turboprop here. I have one that says torque, one that says prop RPM, one's NG, and they have ITT. Plus you have the 2 kind of secondary ones below, oil pressure and oil temperature. So what is torque measuring? Obviously it's not measuring 57 Newton meters of torque here.
No, the torque is measuring the energy that is needed to run the propeller.
Gotcha. So it's a reaction force?
Yes, we can say there's a type of reaction force. Of course, the higher we go, the higher is the energy you need because the air is thinner.
Gotcha. Then prop RPM is self-explanatory. We have the exact same system on a reciprocating engine. And then we have this one. This is NG percentage. I assume that's your gas generator speed.
That's true. That's correct.
And you were saying earlier,
percentage is not in RPM.
Gotcha. I was gonna say, there you go. So 77% of like whatever 28,000 is, or something like that.
Yes, that's correct. The pilot doesn't need to know that the compressor is spinning at 26,459 RPM. He needs to know that the NG is at 76%, as in our case now.
Gotcha. And then ITT, what? I know that's a temperature, but what are we actually measuring there?
The temperature between the gas generator turbine and the power turbine.
And I'll go get our little diagram up.
It doesn't have to be too high, otherwise we literally burn up the power turbine.
Gotcha. Well, yeah. So the gas turbine keeps running, but the propeller certainly would stop. And then,
luckily, the fuel control unit is good enough to avoid that.
Gotcha. Oh no,
it's
that's
always human factor.
Yeah. Then you have oil pressure and oil temperature. I assume you have same exact concept as in a reciprocating engine.
That's exactly the same.
Exactly. All right. Awesome. Okay. That's pretty slick. All right. So now I'm going to try to get some of the tricky questions here. So just general, what would you advise for people who are flying turboprops or gas turbine engines? Just general advice.
Just don't do anything at all. Fly like any other airplane, thinking though that the reaction time of the engine could be slightly higher than a piston engine.
Gotcha. Now I find in the simulator, maybe because again I've never flown one of these, I can't speak to it, but it almost seems like that reaction time is very significant. If I push the throttle all the way forward, it's like then it starts going. Is that the same as it is in the regular aircraft or in helicopters?
Yes, exactly. Is the same thing. That's also the reason why we have the fuel control unit, and that's why the throttle is only a signal that goes into the fuel control unit, and we don't control directly the the amount of gas going in.
Okay. So my understanding is also that, I was talking to a person who did fly turboprops, and they were mentioning that they don't have a throttle. They have a power control lever. Now, I assume that's in
Exactly.
reference to the fact that, it's not like a direct connection in the sense that you're basically telling the fuel controller what you want to do, and it figures it out for you kind of a thing?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
The power control lever is just, I repeat, sorry.
That's fine.
It's just an input signal to the fuel control unit.
Gotcha. So now I'm working this out theoretically just to make sure I understand it. So let's say I'm at 50% power and I push the throttle, the power control lever all the way forward. The fuel control unit, I would assume, would kind of like flood the engine quickly and then start backing the fuel out a little bit as it starts getting closer to its desired power?
Yes, it takes its time.
Gotcha.
To arrive to the power that you are setting with the throttle in that moment.
Gotcha. Okay, that's a little different. It's almost like a FADEC, but it's got its own kind of beast to it. Now, our gas...
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yes, I was just confirming.
Yeah, okay. So now my understanding is a lot of helicopters are gas turbine powered because you're saying, your power to weight on a gas turbine is amazing. These things aren't very heavy and they have the capability of producing tremendous amounts of torque and power. So in a helicopter, I mean, response must be really, really critical. So are they designed any differently?
Let's say that the fuel control unit is designed a little differently. On the helicopter I flew, the turbine was able to generate, as far as I remember, 1,500 horsepower on the shaft.
Okay.
And the overall power generated by the whole engine it was 4,500 horsepower, multiplied by 2.
Wow.
2 engines.
You definitely got to keep those in sync with each other.
Yes.
I know. We're probably going to want to start thinking about our descending. Our altitude target is going to be about 3,000 feet. Sorry about bringing us down into Roma. I've only been to Rome once, so unfortunately I can't speak a lot to the accuracy or inaccuracy here. And I'll be right by boat as opposed to by plane, though, so can't speak to that.
That's not.
All right, now one thing I understand about gas turbines or turboprops, which is really different compared to especially reciprocating engines, is you don't have to worry about overheating or cooling them in the sense that, like if I run a reciprocating engine, if I just pull the throttle back for my descent, I could basically shock cool the engine. And the opposite's also true. If it's a really, really cold day, if it's like, -5 or -10, and, if I start that engine up and I just use it at full power, I could do some real damage. Now, the same is not true for turbines, correct? Or gas turbines, I should say.
It's not true. It's not true for one simple reason, that is the name I'm repeating over and over: fuel control unit.
Gotcha. Like you said, it's the magic unit. So it can. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Again, that you're like spoiled in a way. It just goes as soon as you get the thing going. That's wild. Now I understand that maybe this is more of a jet engine thing, but we were an electric starter. Like we did an electric motor to start this one. Do they have any that have to be started like with an APU or like compressed air?
It depends on the type of engine and on the type of aircraft. Some aircraft are good only with their own battery. Some other aircraft, they need an external APU just to save the battery energy. You don't have to torment the battery so much. And if you can have help from outside, from an external APU, it is better. Usually, as far as I know, the big birds like the Airbus or the 737 or something bigger, they have a small tiny engine which is properly an APU in order to turn the airplane on, basically.
Gotcha. I was just curious if you had something similar, because it seems like your scale is a little different too. You don't have a 3,000-4,000 pound engine here. This thing says what? You're talking like 100, 200 kilograms, something like that?
For which one?
For the PT6?
The PT6 should be around 150 kilograms.
That's amazing.
We are talking about 300 pounds?
Yeah, that's nothing.
Ish.
That's amazing. The fact that you could just move it. That hurts my brain, just considering just how heavy like regular reciprocating engines are compared.
No, you cannot compare.
That's great.
To have the same power that this PT6 has, you need a piston engine as big as the airplane itself.
That's incredible. Now I know that they tried to make some gas turbine cars at one point, and to very limited success. Something about
Yes.
engine idle, and fuel economy.
Exactly.
Well, looks
Especially
like,
the second.
yeah, looks like we got our runway coming right up on the left there, but I think you already got us on final there.
Yes.
All right, so now I got to ask the question that everybody's going to ask here. So, how good is Flight Simulator's recreation of the gas turbines? Again, you're definitely kind of speaking from some personal experience here.
Look, as far as I can see, the simulator itself overall is a good simulation software. The engines at the end as simulator, it is well simulated. We went through some trials trying to break the engine in the TBM. We couldn't do that. It seems that the virtual fuel control unit seems to work pretty good.
Gotcha.
Then what I can say is just fly, enjoy the panorama.
Yeah, I get you. Now, I asked a similar question before, and it's a pretty similar answer. Again, the geography is pretty good, but those engines, it sounds complicated. Even that fuel control unit, as you've been mentioning a lot, that definitely sounds like something that'd be difficult to get perfect.
Yes, of course. Also because there are too many input signals that the software has to consider. Then it's pretty difficult to simulate. It's not just some pistons going up and down, but it has NG and F, T2, which is the outer temperature, P3, the discharge compressed pressure, and the throttle.
Gotcha. Now, let me ask you
Too many things to do.
You're good.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, now, is it harder to work in a gas turbine than it is a reciprocating engine?
I can tell you one thing. We used to work with white gloves.
That's crazy.
Like this, our workshop was like a surgery room.
That is very different when you get oil on everything.
Yes, no, there is no oil everywhere, because it's just the way you have to work.
Gotcha.
There are too many factors that can badly influence an inspection on a turbine.
Gotcha.
Then when you put the turbine off the plane, you open it, inspect it, clean it, maintain, and mount it back. The first satisfaction is to see the aircraft coming back home.
Gotcha. Now, the other thing...
With you on it, of course.
Yeah, exactly. So let me ask, so I have a feeling gas turbines are expensive, and that's why you don't see them more commonly in small aircraft.
That's true. They are high-level maintenance, and yes, they are pretty expensive.
Gotcha. Because, I was reading at one point where, one gas turbine like a PT6 could be, $500,000. And it's like, wow, that's more than the entire plane. I could get myself a nice Cirrus for that. It's just, oh, man. But obviously, like you were saying, they're extremely durable. They're definitely proven. Now, they run on Jet A, correct? That's going to be the regular kind of jet fuel?
Yes, it's called JP5.
Got it.
As I remember.
Gotcha.
I don't know if in US you have the same. Yes, you should have the same type of engine.
All right, got to keep an eye on everything on our way down.
Fuel. Sorry, yes, I'm sorry that I am stuttering in my talk, but I'm quite concentrated to...
No, it's fine. You're supposed to be doing a stereo cockpit under 10,000 feet anyway. We've been, kind of naughty in that regard. I'll let you land.
Okay, thanks. I have only 2 notches of flaps and should be enough.
I was going to say, with that bug, it could take us a little while to come down. Prepare for ground effect.
There we are on.
Hey, we're down. Ooh, no, that's good.
Yep.
That's good. Yeah, because I was playing around with this earlier in the Beechcraft Baron, and like with full flaps, you can give it full power and take off at like 35. It's ridiculous. But I know they're going to fix it, and they're going to take away our fun, but oh well. All right, let's see if I can figure out what taxiway we got to use to go ahead and get back to parking here. You're going to be taking, I was going to say straight in your next right.
Yeah, you take the control.
I'll
Because
take
I'm
controls.
not
Yeah,
so
I know.
good in
I know where we're
parking.
going. Hey, let me steal the controls
If I
from you.
don't have the... Oops.
There we go. No problem. I got it. All right. So anything else you'd like to tell us about gas turbines? I think I kind of covered most of the pieces there, but I definitely want to make sure that I'm not missing anything obvious here.
Two important things: lubrication and cooling down. Those are the two things that the maintainer has to take care of. Then, as long as there is oil and as long as there is air, the engine is strong like old style horse of the Far West.
Yeah, different kind of grain though, obviously.
Yes,
Exactly.
amazing work, amazing job.
Now, you mentioned earlier that you work on helicopters. Now, obviously, we have a slightly different setup here. In a helicopter, you don't directly control the engine, I believe, correct? I mean, you can, but I don't think it's got like a governor or something.
Yes, there's also heroes on the PT6. There is a governor. Well, actually, there are two governors. One for the gas generator turbine and one for the power turbine. The signal in input to the fuel control unit I mentioned before, they are realized through governors.
Gotcha.
Then the helicopter is exactly the same. The only difference with the PT6 of the TBM is that the propeller is not, it doesn't have this position, but is vertical above our head.
Gotcha. Now that's interesting, because I know in a helicopter, basically you have your collective, and you'd be pulling back on that, which would create more load on the engine, and then the engine would obviously spin up to catch up to you. That's interesting.
Yeah, there the concept is a little different. You have to pull up weight.
Gotcha.
You need power.
Yeah, because I can cruise. Helicopters, they cruise at pretty high power. All right, so let me ask the impossible question then. What's the ready for what I did prepare you for? So, are gas turbines getting replaced at any point with electric? Is it technology here to stay forever? Or are there going to be new developments in the horizon?
I believe that electric cannot replace everything.
Gotcha.
Especially in these high power airplanes. The TBM is small. That's true, but the performance that they could make with this small airplane cannot be reached with a electric engine, just because you need a lot of power. If you need 890 horsepower to pull up the plane and to have those performance, imagine to invent an electrical system which can give the same amount of power. I strongly don't believe that today, with the batteries we have now, with the engines we have now, with electric engines we have now, we will ever reach so high power to be mounted so safely on an airplane like the TBM.
Gotcha. Because I know they're always threatening like the electric airliner or something like that. And I'm like, batteries just don't have the energy density, even if you have an electric motor that you could get light enough to do it.
Yep.
All right, so
especially when the airplane is a has 2 or 4 jet engines.
That's some serious demand, and you got to have a little bit of safety. You got to trust that going across the Atlantic or something like that.
Indeed.
All right, and we go ahead and pull us to a stop. Of course, I did the naughty thing and forget to turn on the inertial separator. Womp womp. But I don't think there's a lot of particulates in the air today, so I'm not too worried about that. All right, so this is again, I think it's been great. This nice little flight. I certainly learned a lot today, and again, I want to thank Antonio again for taking the time with us. I know our time zone differences are pretty extreme here. I'm afraid to know what time it is at night. But I really appreciate him coming out and helping us out today. And hopefully that answers some of the questions that you folks have been having about this system. Like he was saying, obviously, the computer on these things is very strong. It does a lot of the kind of heavy lifting. So some of the misconceptions, at least to me, and maybe you can clarify if you need to, come from the fact that older systems just behave differently. All right, now, any closing thoughts?
No, thanks to everybody for for watching the video, and it's been a pleasure to have some fun with you, and see you next time, I hope.
All right. Thanks so much, Antonio.
Yeah,
Enjoy.
you're welcome.